is kind of a lie. I didn't know you had a channel because, let's check this real quick. Phoenix, Schoology, login, our math page. Make sure you go to the one with the picture. In materials, Hudson's YouTube. So, right here, link to my page. That takes you straight to the recent videos. If you go to my home page and you are a new visitor, nothing will show up. It looks like I have nothing. But if you go to my videos, there's all the videos. So it's all by date, and then we're not A7, we're M7. So this was yesterday. All right, but diving into today, we will be on 223, so please make sure you have your homework in your plan book. You might have them all written down from yesterday. If so, good for you. Then go ahead and pull your book out. We are on page 93. And you will be using these, what we call integer tiles. I know they're not really tiles, but in the bags on your desks. You will be using those. So please, one book per pair. If we each have a book out, it might get kind of crowded. So one book per pair. Then either math journal or toolkit out. Let's go ahead and date our notes. What's today's date? 28th. And 2, 2, 3 is all about still adding rationals. And a rational is any positive, negative, whole number, or portion as long as we can write it as a fraction. So if we can't write it as a fraction, it's not a rational. It's called an irrational, not rational. All right, so the first thing we want to do in question 56 is take a handful, now not a giant handful because that'll make more work for you, but in your bag of integer tiles, go ahead and without really looking or caring much, reach in and just grab a few of these. And then pass it around your table and let everybody, and then you're going to want to put these on your tabletop or your book or whatever for right now. So a few, not half the bag, just a few. Yeah, you can, like when you put them on your desk, you can look at them. What are we going to be taking notes on? Math Journal Toolkit, something? Allie's Math Journal Toolkit, something else to take notes? So, the first thing we want to ask is, what'd you get? What'd you pull out? So, Patrick, how would you describe what you got?
Well, I got all addition signs.
Good morning, Phoenix. Caleb Smith,
So,
please come to the office. Caleb Smith, please come to the office.
these are not multiplications, and they're not actually addition signs either. What do you think these might represent, Alex? Positives and negatives. So, let's say I got 7 positives and 3 negatives, and mathematically, we always write with a plus. So go ahead and write on your paper what you got, which is why I said if you take a giant handful, you're going to make more work for yourself. How many positives and how many negatives? Did you seriously get all positives?
I got all positives.
Yeah, dude. Take you to the casino, except I can't. Now, what's the value of your pile combined? You might be like, what do you mean? I just wrote it out. But what happens, Ella, when I have a plus and a minus or a positive and a negative together? Yeah. 0. So if I have 7 positives and 3 negatives, 3 of my negatives will cancel out 3 of my positives, and really all we have, or all I would have had in that pile, is really a net value of 4. So take a moment, figure out at your table group, at your team, who had the highest value. Who had the greatest value. And that might have been whose hands are biggest. Can I help you? Do you need a hand? Okay, looks like we're having fun issues. You're good. Yeah, take whatever time you need. If you miss this activity, you're hearing it. You're understanding what's going on. So you're good. No, it's not a bad thing. We're just saying, like, that's a lot of time. So make sure we're writing on our paper how many positives did you have, how many negatives did you have, and what's that combined value. You writing that out, Alan? Please make sure we're writing this out. How many positives, how many negatives. Now, this question is going to be interesting based off the piles that I've seen as I walk around the room. If you took a bigger handful of tiles, you took like as many as you could, what do you think would happen to the net value of your pile, the combined value? Ooh, that was a quick hand, do you know? Probably get bigger. Why do you think?
Well, I mean, if there's more, well, I guess the bigger number to what you're subtracting it by would get bigger, so then it would be smaller for one.
So like I take a big handful now, right? As many as I can. So you said it might get, what might get bigger? Or now, wait, did you say it's getting smaller now?
Well, okay, so if all the, so if the positive ones have more.
Okay.
So then you could subtract the negatives by positives, and then it'd probably be a bigger number because there's more to subtract.
So if I take a bigger handful, you're assuming I get more positives?
Yeah.
What if I get more negatives?
Well, the bigger number is the 4 on yours would be bigger.
Not necessarily. What if I had 15 positives and 11 negatives? I could still get exactly the same thing. So this question is really hard to answer. It's really hard to predict. Right? Because as I take a bigger handful, I'm taking positives or negatives. Well, if we're like Patrick and we get all positives, my value is going to get bigger. But actually, if Patrick puts those back in and tries again, he might actually get a smaller value if he gets some negatives now. Or maybe I just set that bag up poorly. Maybe there's too many positives. So part C is really hard to answer. We, if you look at 57, are going to come to the game at the end. We're going to play this game at the end of class, so we're going to skip past that. No, you didn't. You're a liar. All right, put your tiles back in the bag for a moment. Or, like, pile them back up. Like, if you have them spread out, pile them back up. Then, I want you guys to each pull out and have in front of you at least 8 negatives and 2 positives. 8 negatives, 2 positives. Well, you don't need those now, so. Two positives. We're on 57, part A.
How many?
8 negatives.
No, I have 2.
So you should have something close to this.
I mean, yeah.
You mean yeah?
I mean, yeah.
No, leave them spread out. You should have something looking similar to this. So, in your notebook, real quick, just go ahead and draw this out. But try to make sure that you have positives and negatives close enough to each other that we can show something about them. So if you want to pause a second, you can wait to draw this out. But I'm going to draw There's 5 on top, 3 on bottom, and then a plus and a plus. So however you draw it, 8 negatives. And actually, if I want to be real specific, I would love to line those up in the spaces. 5, 3, 2, and make a little pyramid thing. Now, Ella told us something interesting. Sorry, Emma. There's like 2 Ellas in the afternoon class, and there's Emmas, and we have a lot of similar names. What can I do up here to look at the combined value of my expression? Because that's actually what this is. It's an expression. What can I do, especially if I physically do it? What can I do? Yeah, what do you think?
You can have so you can have -8 on the left and then 2 constants on the right. So then if you do that, you should take away 2 constants, take away 2 in this because there's 2 positives and negatives, which would be
So if I combine this positive negative, what's that equal? This. 0. If I combine this positive negative, that equals 0. So what am I actually, what's the value of what I have here? -6. Show that in your notes. So I don't know why this is showing now, sorry, but if we group this, that's 0. If we group these, that's 0. And what's left is just -6. So for B and C, I want you to do the same thing, making them with tiles and performing the action it's asking you to do. So if you have a -5 and a -3, you're going to have 5 negative tiles and 3 negative tiles. What does that then get you? Yeah, 58. Sorry, I labeled it 57. My bad. 58. So try B and C. And if B and C are making sense, you can go ahead and move on and continue. I just want to make sure they make sense first. Who can tell me what the net value of B? Net means like when we put it together, when we simplify it. Marvin? How do you know that? You're right. You're absolutely right.
5 plus 3 is 8.
Yeah. Marvin said, well, I know 5 and 3 are 8, and they're both negative, so my answer is -8. If I draw that, or if I do it with tiles, I start with 5 negatives, I bring in 3 more negatives, sweet. They're all the same. It's like 2 bad guys, right? So in C, now remember, I've talked about good guys, bad guys in here. Did we talk about that with positive, negative? Yeah. So in C, we have a good guy and a bad guy, right? Who is more powerful, the good guy or the bad guy? The bad guy, right? 4 is more powerful. But if we show this with our tiles, we can easily, please play with the tiles, so like get your brain used to what we're doing. We can show, I got my 2 positives, right, and my 4 negatives, and then I join up, cancel out, And I'm left with what? 2 negatives. So my answer then is -2. Take 2 or 3 minutes. Try to solve through the rest of these. Probably don't need that one. Yeah, I wish he wore some kind of specific tie or anything. We need to make sure whoever has. He's in the ABCDE group, I think. Isn't he?
Where right now?
He's in our afternoon class, yeah. Or is he in Accelerate? Oh, then he'll be with me. I'm good. Let's go to some cards. Haven't used these yet today. So cards means not Patrick. Sorry, Patrick. That was yesterday. How did these get back on top? Grant, did I call on you yesterday? Alright, that's where we're at. Grant in D, what'd you get? You got 14? We all agree? Oh, I heard yeah and no. Grant, some people disagree. Take a moment. Why might they be disagreeing with you? What do you start with? What's the first thing you have in the problem? You were to model this on your table. 7 negative tiles. Then you bring in 7 negative tiles. We end up with -14. But if you don't say it, it doesn't count. And Matt, what about E? -4 plus 3. -1. If I have 4 negative tiles and then 3 positives, I create 3 zeros. Allie, what about F? This one's tough. I'm going to break it down a little bit. So, if we think about F, if you were to model this on your table and kind of group things, we would really look at these together because they're the same thing. So how many total negatives do you have, Allie? So you have 4 negatives from here, 2 negatives from here. How many negative tiles? Sorry, I should ask that. 6, right? How many positive tiles? 8. So which has more? By how much? There we go. And that's how we figure out our answer. So we would have made 6 zeros with the plus minuses together, the positive negatives joined up, and you have 2 left over of the positive tiles. Kate, what about G? Another tough one here. You got 5. How'd you get that? Is there another way that we could look at that and do it even easier? That's still not the easiest. Everything you said is correct. It's just still not the easiest. Alan?
Well, -3 and 3, those are in. What is it? Additive.
You had it in.
Inverse.
Yeah, they're additive inverses, so they equal 0 together, which means 5 is the only thing I really have. Because I can immediately see a 0 that happens. Any questions on these? All right, move on to 59 with your team. Now we've got some partial numbers. So, figure out how to solve these problems with the partial values. Hey, we'll go at least 3 minutes, and then I'll check in. Oh, sorry, I skipped 59. Work through 59, then if you reason through that, then move on to 60. Do not try to model 59. You'll have to get like all of the tiles. 200 positive tiles or negative tiles. So, in number 259, there's a couple ways to think about this. Right? Sorry I didn't give you that long, but I heard most of us, and I've seen most of you guys have answers written down already. We can think about this as addition. But has anyone thought about it differently? We already chatted. Nathan, we haven't chatted. What? How so? Hold on a second. But I thought we were adding 14. Why would we take 14 away? And because we have one negative and one positive. Because these are different signs, guys, if we forget how to do this, add and subtraction rules up there even while you're taking tests. Not like state tests, but my tests, all my posters stay up here. So if you forget, refer to those signs. If we're adding and have different signs, we're really figuring out the difference. So, when Nathan subtracted, what's the difference between 214? It's 186. And then the last thing we have to remember to do, put the negative on the front because my larger value was the negative. Any questions on that? So as you work through 2-60, realize that when we're adding with different signs, we're really finding the difference. Who wins by how much? When we're adding with the same signs, we're joining power. We're joining forces, right? So we've got a couple different examples here for you. Try to solve these as easily as possible. Now I'll actually give you the 3 quiz. Or longer. Probably 4, since it's 4 o'clock. Any more? Oh, yeah. You can solve. There's plastic. Probably like cheap discarded plastic. Oh, please don't do it, because then they'll end up really dirty, probably. Well, if everybody cuts them in half, like, about 3 years I'll have one. So please don't. I hear some interesting techniques that I walk around of breaking up the numbers. I like it. That's pretty sweet. You know what that's called? When you repeat a shape and fill an entire space. It's called a tessellation. So when you see patterns that are one shape copied that fill an entire space, it's called a tessellation. So like when you lay carpet or when you lay like flooring, it's technically a tessellation. So there's your math vocab for the day. And actually, what's his name? MC Escher. Here, come here real quick. MC Escher did stuff with tessellations. He did some where he would change what he was tessellating. So he's like tessellating the field, and then it turns into a bird. And then back here, it's like they're flying different directions. So it's, if you look up his art, he's really weird.
Oh yeah, we've heard of that. I've heard of
There's
that
some
guy.
speculation on why he has such weird art. Some people
I like that bird.
took drugs and did things back
I like
then.
that bird.
Yeah, so his art is sweet. He's like a mathematician artist.
Okay, yeah.
Also, fun story while I bring your attention back up here. Lewis Carroll. Don't roll your eyes at me. You don't even know what I'm going to say yet. Lewis Carroll did what? Anyone know that name, Lewis Carroll? Wrote Somebody in Wonderland.
Oh, Mad Hatter.
Wrote Alice in Wonderland, right? Lewis Carroll wrote Alice in Wonderland. He was actually a mathematician. So if you ever read his works, and you like, especially when he's talking to the Mad Hatter, and actually if you've never known, the Mad Hatter has like this weird fraction card, and if you watch the movie, you see it. But if you read the original books, you can kind of tell that Lewis Carroll was a mathy kind of guy. So the first thing we want to do when we look at addition problems is ask ourselves, when these values, these numbers come together, are they going to fight each other? Or are they going to join forces? So, Aubrey, in A, are we going to join forces? I'm using cards. Are we going to join forces or are we going to fight against each other? Negative 100 and positive 50. We're going to fight. We're going to fight against each other. Now, who's stronger? The bad guy or the good guy? Bad guy, right? By how much? I'm talking to Aubrey. Aubrey, you threw your voice across the room very well. You're working on your ventriloquism act. So, the negative wins by an excess of 50. Or we would make 50 zeros with the positives and then have 50 negatives left. Miss Gibson. What about B? Are we joining forces or... We're joining forces for good or for evil? For evil. Never. I don't know what kind of students we have here this year. Okay, so we're joining forces for evil. Write the negative down first. As soon as you think about it, write it down. Take it from the guy that has gotten questions marked wrong, or just forgetting to write something down that I knew in my head. As soon as you think it, write it down. So then, Ella, when we join forces, how much do we get at the end? 90 and 7/8. Now, how did you get that when I had 5/8 and a fourth? Yeah, 1/4 is equivalent fraction is 2/8. Yeah.
Your Spotify still going? Because it's not working for Mrs. Pettigrew.
I don't even think I've had it on this morning. I can come help her. I can hand off to Mr. Smith. It is not open anywhere here. It's probably open at home, but I can hijack it from here. I'll come help. Mr. Smith, would you please?
All right. So, who was winning this battle?
56.
So, who are we up to here? Ella, are you still going? You get an answer? You're done? All right. All right, Marvin. We've got letter C. The battle of good and evil. Are they joining forces? Are they fighting?
Fighting.
What's going on here?
Alex.
Joining forces. Joining forces for good or joining forces for evil? For evil. So just like Mr. Hudson was just saying, and from another person who got a lot of points taken off as a kid for forgetting a negative sign here and there, we already know that evil's going to win. what's the best way to go about doing the figuring then when they smash together? How did you set it up, I guess?
You add them together.
Yeah, now you're going back to the old-fashioned, just your 25.63, 30, and 59 hundredths. And now, when I'm putting these numbers together, do I need to put my negative signs in here? Where is the negative sign when these two guys combine? Where's the negative sign going? It's already there. I already know. So I'm just going to put in my plus because I'm doing this the old-fashioned way. 3 plus 9, okay, yeah, 12. Ooh, that's not a 2. It's supposed to be a 2. All right. Did anybody support that? Did I do my arithmetic correctly? 56.22? Yes, you can support that. All right. And like I said, I already got my negative sign there. Because I've made the same mistakes Mr. Hudson has made. And he got points dinged. And there we go.
And what I can't make you guys realize right now is when we're talking about getting points dinged and things like that, what it really comes down to is money. When you take the ACT, the SAT, the whatever, and your scores are determining your scholarships that you can get for colleges, like, we're just trying to encourage that precision to make sure you do as good as possible. Now, D's tough. You gonna keep rolling, Mr. Smith, or you want me to?
Did anyone get D finished? How many people?
I'm almost finished.
Okay. In the end, Alex, who won? The forces of good or the forces of evil? All right, forces of good. So we know at the end we should end up with a positive number. But what strategy would you use, even if you didn't get to it yet? Nathan, oh, you did get to it. You got your hand up. What strategy did you use to narrow this down?
I added negative 30 and 75 together, and I got 45.
45 positive or 45 negative?
Positive.
Okay, so Nathan decided to do kind of a side-by-side battle here, all right? You may have chosen a different way, but Nathan's way is going to work just fine. So 75 positives against 30 negatives. The 75 wins by 45. They had 45 more good guys there. Okay? Then what did you do?
And then I added 160 plus negative 29, and I got positive 131.
Positive 131. And then from there?
Then you add them together and get 176.
So what's interesting is that's totally different than how I would have actually thought to solve it, but completely right. Multiple ways to get to Florida, right? Multiple correct solutions. When I envision that problem, I see good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy. My bad guys go join up and my good guys go join up before they ever fight. That would be what I would be thinking when I view that situation. But it doesn't matter how you solve it, as long as you get to the right answer. So Mr. Smith is showing if I join up my good guys and join up my bad guys, I have a good force of 235 and an evil force of 59. I'll still get that same 176. Ooh, old school stack subtraction.
Yeah, sorry.
Gross.
Never learned the other way. I need to work on that one. How many people who did finish that problem decided to use Nathan's method, where you just did the first two and the second two?
I would.
How many people used the get all the positives together, get all the negatives together? But everybody got to Florida, so we're in good shape.
There's actually a third way. Well, there's more than 3 ways. But another way, did anyone just work it left to right? Just straight across. So you did the first addition and got your 45. Then you add the 160 and get 205. And then you subtract the 29. You can just work it left to right. And that's kind of the, new people keep jumping into the fight. We have those two guys fight, then the 160 comes into the fight, and then the 29 comes in. By the way, I'm kind of a pacifist. I'm not really into fighting. It's just a good example. Good guys, bad guys. And the Marvel Galaxy has really sucked you guys in, which I'm happy about. So it is easy for teaching math. We should pass out the game. We should totally do the game. So we will not be able to finish this, but you guys can outside of class if you would like. Yeah, you can't see that. Not even close, Hudson. Come on, bro. Alright, so you need these as pairs. You don't each need one of these. I'll make some more copies and leave them on the back table. Actually, I'll make more copies before this afternoon. I'll give you each your own. So you play this by pairs, but I'll give you each your own just so you have them and can play later with other people. Tessellation. It is. Yep. I did print some extras, but not enough for both classes. Alright, so, hold up. Give me your attention, because I only have 4 minutes for us to explain this game. So, why this game? To practice adding numbers. Of course, I'm not just going to hand you a game with no mathematical intention. Come on. But, here's the objective. You have the numbers listed below. See that line that says sum here? And these positive 1 through 8 and then negative 1 through 8? You have those numbers to work with. You will each, so we can just read through this. To play one round of rock, paper, scissors, who goes first? Or you can just agree, you go first this time, I'll go first next time, whatever. First person places one of the numbers on the board. Positive. Second person places one of the numbers on the board that is negative. And then we alternate play, continuing until all the numbers have been used. Add the numbers in each row and write each row's sum on the appropriate blank in the sum column. Give the winner of each row 1 point. You guys take whether you are positive or negative. You either want to be the good guy or the bad guy in this game. It's okay. We can all put on a imagination hat. You can be a bad guy at one point. Then, oh yeah, I didn't have it open. If you want to hit the resource page, just click that. Oh, yeah. So, actually, drag it back down. You and I can play. So, if Mr. Smith and I are going to play, do you want positive or negative? I'll be negative. Alright, so I'm player 1 then. So I'm... Oh, where's my pen? Alright. Really? Oh, there we go. So I'll just throw my 5 there. Then Mr. Smith would put a negative somewhere. Don't know, but I'm just going to keep going in the top, I guess. Oh no. You having the cursor go up the mouse. It's all good. You can't do multiple points at once. You know you could come up here and play. Yeah, I guess it would be a lot more entertaining. Alright. Who do you guys think is going to win? You make your own prediction in your head. No, there aren't. Who said there's more negatives than positives? We started with the same numbers. Just all negatives and positives. Alright, here's how you end game. I need you guys to see this before we leave. Then, we go across. Add this up. So what's 5 plus 3?
8.
Then minus 8?
0.
Plus 1?
1.
I win this one. We go across this one. Figure out if it's positive or negative. If it's negative, like it is, this one will be negative 4. Mr. Smith wins that one. We look at all all columns, add those up. All rows, add those up. Whoever gets the most wins. So you can have these sheets, play at your leisure. We might bring this back and play tomorrow or something. Have a great day, guys. You still actually have an extra minute, so if you want to play wherever you're headed, that's gorgeous.
But
Now you can see the weird discoloration of some of them too.
Whoa! Losing stuff.
No, we don't. It's fine.
It's been shredded.
Never again.
Never.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Did you?
We equaled each other out on that.
I wanted to make a 0 so that one of us would actually win. So wait, you won because the 0. Mr. Smith won. If you're Math 7 and you know what I'm talking about. If you're accelerated, you have no idea.